Fun fact, planet Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Mankind, about 140,000 years old. Let me put that in perspective. If you condense the Earth's lifespan into 24 hours, that's one full day, then we have been here on this planet for, drum roll please, 3 seconds. 3 seconds. And look what we've done. We have modestly named ourselves Homo sapiens, meaning wise man. But is man really so wise? Smart, yes, and it's good to be smart, but not too smart for your own good. Yes, we have split the atom. Yes, we build clever machines that navigate the universe in search of new homes, but at the same time, those atoms we split created nuclear warfare. In our quest to explore the galaxy, rejects and neglects the home that we have here now, so no, that cannot be wisdom. Wisdom is different. While intelligence speaks, wisdom listens, and we willingly covered our ears to Mother Nature's screams and closed our eyes to all of her help-wanted signs. Wisdom knows that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, so if we were wise, we would not be shocked when we see storms that are stronger than ever before, or more drought, hurricanes, and wildfire than ever before, because there's more pollution than ever before, more carbon, more trees cut down than ever before. At a record pace, we have increased the extinction of animals by 1,000 times the normal rate. What a feat. In the next 10 to 100 years, every beloved animal character in every children's book is predicted to go extinct. Lions gone, rhinos gone, tiger, gorilla, elephant, polar bear gone in 3 seconds. Species that have been here longer than us will be gone because of us in this 3 seconds. In an existence shorter than a Vine video, we turn the circle of life into our own personal conveyor belt. Somebody, anybody help. We were given so much, the only planet in this solar system with life. I mean, we are 1 in a million. No, actually, scientifically, we are 1 in a billion, trillion. That's a 1 followed by 33 zeros. And I don't want to get too spiritual, but how are we not a miracle? We are perfectly positioned to the sun so we don't burn, but not too distant so we don't turn to ice. Goldilocks said it best. We are just right. This paradise where we are given medicine from trees, not coincidentally, but because like the song says, we are family. Literally, everything, every species is connected genetically from the sunflower to the sunfish. And this is what we must recognize before it's too late, because the real crisis is not global warming, environmental destruction, or animal agriculture. It is us. These problems are symptoms of us, byproducts of us. Our inner reflection, loss of connection has created this misdirection. We have forgotten that everything contributes to the perfection of Mother Nature. Corporations keep us unaware and disconnected, but they have underestimated our strength. Contrary to popular belief, millions are waking up out of their sleep, seeing our home being taken right up under our feet. We cannot allow our history to be written by the wicked, greedy, and loony. It is our duty to protect Mother Nature from those who refuse to see her beauty. Call me crazy, but I believe we should have the right to eat food that's safe with ingredients we can pronounce. Drink water that is clean, marvel at trees, breathe air free of toxins. These are natural rights, not things that can be bargained for in Congress. See, they want you to feel powerless, but it has been said that something as small as the flutter of a butterfly's wing can cause a typhoon halfway around the world. But when enough people come together, we too will make waves and wash the world into a new era filled with love and connection, freedom for all without oppression. But it is up to you, yes, you watching this behind this screen, to make the effort, because time is of the essence, and only together can we make it to the 4th second.
Gurdev and Namaste to everyone. I greet you all in peace and love, and it is so wonderful to have you all on this meeting today. Before I begin and welcome everyone officially, we would like to start our meeting with a universal prayer that will be led by Mark Shaldon Naicker. Mark?
Everyone to maybe just close their eyes so they can reflect. And maybe just think, because we come from different faith communities, to think of your creator, the different names that you may call him as we begin. Almighty and ever-loving God, creator of the universe, we all belong to you. We come to you this evening with the many beautiful names each of our faiths have bestowed on you. We seek your guidance during this time as we share our positive thoughts on how best to protect the earth, to protect the world, and protect our continent. We pray for all our young people who come from different parts of the continent, who are working together as custodians of your earth. We pray for those young people who are affected by climate change, whose habitat is affected. We pray for the animals. We pray for the people. We pray for the healing of the earth. We ask your many special blessings on this great day. Many peace.
Thank you, Mark, for that prayer. Welcome to everyone to our Interfaith Dialogue program hosted by Religions for Peace Interfaith Youth Climate Forum in partnership with Global Network of Religions for Children. It is so wonderful to have you all on this meeting, especially coming together as youth to celebrate Earth Day today. So since today is Earth Day, I would like for us to engage in a short 5-minute guided meditation for the earth, which was given to me by my Guru Paramahamsa Vishwananda. And I'd like for all of us to connect with Mother Earth, sending her a lot of love and gratitude. So will you take this moment to do a 5-minute meditation with me? So you are welcome to put your cameras on. We currently just have everybody muted at the moment to not disturb the meeting. And so feel free to put your cameras on. Okay, so for this Earth meditation, I would like all of y'all to take your palms, your hands, and face your palms opposite each other. You can look like how I'm doing on the screen right now. So there's your hands, face your palms this way with each other, and then put your hand in front of your chest. Okay. So I'm hoping to see all you guys on screen. Okay, so now place your hand in front of your chest, and I want you to close your eyes and take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. So take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. So do it one more time. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Now, as you take your next deep breath in and out, I want you to release all the negative energy you feel in your body, whether you have anxiety, stress, or worries, right? So take a deep breath in and take a deep breath out and just release everything. So now I want you to focus on your heart center, and I want you to focus on the light and positivity in your heart. And I want you to feel all this love and all this light and all this positive energy in your heart. I want you to take this love and light to the center of your forehead and let this love and light purify your mind. Take it to your eyes and let it purify your sight. Take it to your nose and let it purify your breathing. Take it to your mouth and let it purify your speech. Take it to your ears and let it purify your hearing. Bring this love and light to your hands and let it purify your actions. Bring it to your leg and feet and let it purify your path so that it always brings you to the right path. Now bring this love and light back to your heart center. Right? Now focus on your heart and feel all the love in your heart and feel your heart expanding as an open flower. Now visualize Mother Earth in the palm of your hands and visualize you holding her and carrying her. And send all this love and all this positive energy that you feel in your heart to her. Offer her all your love and all your gratitude and tell her thank you for everything she does for us. Now visualize your country and your hometown and send all this love and light to the people in your country and hometown. Send it to the president in your country, to the people that are in charge. Send this love and light to all the people that are currently fighting this COVID crisis, essential workers, doctors, people that are suffering right now. people that you know that needs healing and love right now. Send this love and this positive energy to them. Now bring this love and light back to your heart center and focus on Mother Earth and send it to her. Send it to the birds and bees, to the trees, to the animals that are currently suffering. And just offer all your love and gratitude to her. Send this love and light also to your family and friends, to people that are close to you, whether it's your mom and dad and sister, and to all those that are suffering currently. Now thank Mother Earth and tell her, offer your gratitude and tell her thank you for the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink. And just offer all your love and positive energy to her. Bring this love and light back to your art center and keep it with you. Know that the divine is also centered in your heart. And wherever you go and whenever you meet, let this love, this positive energy always flow from you to them. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Hari Om. Okay, you can open your eyes. Okay, so I hope you all enjoyed that earth meditation. And I hope it revives you and helps you stay connected to Mother Earth. And I do apologize for the background noise. I live in a busy neighborhood, so I'm sorry about that. So let me just take a few minutes to tell everyone a little bit about Religions for Peace Interfaith Youth Climate Forum. And while I do this, I encourage everyone as an icebreaker to please introduce yourself by posting a message in our chat screen. Tell us your name, which country you are from, and which organization you represent, and say something about Earth Day that you like to, okay? So feel free to use the chat screen. So the IYCF was born out of the Our Earth, Our Responsibility campaign by Religions for Peace International Global Interfaith Youth Network. This was a global multi-religious youth-led campaign that seeks to educate, engage, and advocate on behalf of our Earth by mobilizing religious believers and people of goodwill to protect our shared planet from the ravages of climate change and its disproportionate effects on the poor and vulnerable communities. So IYCF goal became to educate the community on climate change, to empower the voice of the youth, and to impact the earth, the local community, and people's lives in a positive way. To achieve its goal, this youth-led campaign focused to facilitate a local climate movement through various planned activities incorporating aspects of religion and spirituality in it, but with climate change being the main focus and driving factor. So you can visit our Facebook page to review our past activities. I will post the link in the chat. We've had beach cleanups, climate marches, tree planting, faith campaigns, school awareness climate forums, Meatless Monday campaigns to promote veganism, and many other activities. And this is why our dialogue today is an interfaith dialogue, because it's centered around spirituality, religion, and climate change. Our mission statement is One Earth, One Humanity, Our Responsibility. And so our members comprises of various youth and elders who are volunteers and are passionate about the earth, climate change, and we all belong to various faith and organizations. And we come together with love and passion to serve the earth and our community. So as we all know, climate change is a grave threat to our earth and a defining issue of our time. The effects of climate change, accepted by an ever-growing scientific consensus as caused by human activities, are widely recognized as one of the most serious challenges facing our human family. If we stay on our current course, we can expect an increase in natural disasters, water and food insecurity, animal extinction, mass migration, and threats to global and health security. These effects will hurt humanity, especially those already struggling to rise from extreme poverty. In a profound way, climate change is a threat to peace. So we can see that from our current COVID pandemic crisis is a result of living in disharmony with the earth. Stewardship of the earth is a principle found in the world's major religious traditions. From a basic belief in nature as divine creation to scriptural commands to care for the earth, the collective sacred texts of all faiths speak about caring for the earth in diverse ways. Therefore, protecting the earth and its climate is, according to each of our religious traditions, a serious religious moral obligation. Our respective religious traditions call for us to work together to heal and protect our planet, to live in harmony with God's creation and its animals. So IYCF aims to educate, to create awareness of climate change through the campaign to get many youth involved from many organizations. Although youth are in the forefront and the face of the campaign, it encompasses a great part of the community as well, that is adults, elders, for inclusivity. The task is to create awareness of climate change and let it filter through in your daily actions, even if it is one small positive action. We hope to engage, to create a togetherness and the spirit of the community, to be a part of the activities by becoming a voluntary caretaker of the earth. Youth are encouraged to share the passion with the local community and get more youth involved, to use social media as a platform to create awareness and engage with people. And lastly, to impact. Each event is successful, but the many hands that come together to assist to achieve the objectives of these activities planned. It is driven on the energy each person brings to the activities and the lives that are touched. The positive energy shown to make a difference in the community and the respect and love shown to humanity and motherhood. So this is a synopsis of what is Religions for Peace Interfaith Youth Climate Forum. And you can visit our Facebook page to review past activities, and I will post the link up. So on today's program, our first session is to hear speakers from different religions talking about their faith in respect to climate change and share a bit of their youth work. I will moderate the session and introduce each speaker. And then the second part of the program is an interactive youth discussion, which will be moderated by Mark. And we wish for all youth to engage and make it a memorable discussion. Just a few Zoom guidelines. Everyone is currently muted to not disturb this program. And if you have a question and wish to engage in the second session, you can use the raise your hand function and we will unmute you and you may talk. So let's begin with our first speaker. So let me introduce our first speaker, a fellow colleague. His name is Khulekani Magwaza. He is from Evangelical Lutheran Church in South Africa. The project started in 2017 after the Lutheran World Federation 12th Assembly, which encouraged its member churches to establish climate change initiatives to address the climate crisis in society. He is also a former founder of the South African Youth Center for Climate Change, which was a network of young environmentalists and climate justice activists. He and I actually met in Krakow, Poland at the COP24 informal interfaith gathering in the spirit of Dialogue in Katowice, which also held Train the Trainer workshop on climate change by Religions for Peace and GreenPeace in December 2018, only to discover we both lived in Durban, South Africa. So welcome, Khulekani.
Thank you very much, Merylene, for that introduction. I was not expecting it, especially the way you explained ELCSA and the projects that I coordinate from my church. It's one of the things that I wanted to highlight a bit in my talk. But thank you very much, and I thank the God, our Creator, for linking us together, for connecting us together.
Okay, Khulekani, I think we lost you there. We can't hear you. Is your internet okay? Okay, while we wait for Khulekani to come back on, maybe we just move on to our next speaker. Okay, so our second speaker is Khalid, an environmental and social activist from Stanger, Kwadukuza. He has a deep sense of culture tied to his faith, and he has been raised following Islam as a Muslim. In addition to Islam, other facets of his identity were the pursuit of justice and the appreciation of nature, and therefore he combined these passions in advancing the rights of nature and people. He has woven these pursuits with his studies of science and geography, and now utilizes various platforms to espouse the interconnected message of nature as the mediating force between all things. He currently orbits many youth activists and environmental spaces, letting them shape him as he is shaped by them. The organization which he's employed at is WildOceans, which supports his impassioned attempts to bring the benefits of nature to all people. He hopes to usher in a new age of compassion for people and the planet. So welcome, Khalid. You can take over and do your talk, and we'll get Khulekani after you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much for that introduction, Merylene. Maybe you can go after me since I am on a time budget, and I appreciate that. Merylene, would you be able to share the presentation that I prepared? Okay, guys, I don't want to waste too much of time because I have a 10-minute time slot to talk about some of the most complex things in the world. But let's just get into it. As Merylene introduced me, my name is Khalid Mehta. I'm from Stanger, Durban, KZN, Earth, doesn't really matter. I'm here to bring us some information on why we're here and what we can do about the crisis, the climate crisis. And I recognize that the presentation might make some of you a bit blue, so I will end off the presentation with prayer from my own faith, which is actually a cure for anti-depression. It's a cure for depression, not for anti-depression. Okay, so Merylene, Madam Chair, please can we go to the first slide? Thank you. So I like to begin by showing us some of the diversity that exists out there in the natural world and all the splendor in the environment. So life is valuable, and however much humans could work via the anthropic principle, they cannot replicate the life-giving properties of Earth. In such a way, nature and the planet and all life is the great unifier for everything across spectrums, across religions, races, genders, classes, and this is why we must respect it. Next, please. All right, so our problems stem from the advancement of one over the other, especially the advancement of the human ego over its position as in the ecosystem. So ego trumps eco. In terms of how the world looks at the advancement of sustainable development, we try to prioritize creating this baseline from which we can derive other such benefits. So our society is pinned on a functioning environment, and the economies and relationships that come from that society also stem from the functioning relationships with nature. What has happened over time of man being on Earth is that we've separated from our relationship with nature, and this separation and domination of nature has led to self-centered ideals, and some groups of humans, or many humans in general, have justified this as a form of dominating over the Earth. So a form of societal natural selection. It's actually an inhumane way of viewing yourself in respect to the planet. Next, please, Merylene. All right, this slide might seem complicated and jam-packed, but it's actually a contrast between how we got to it's explaining the fundamentals of how we got here. So the climate crisis is caused by fossil fuels being burnt, which grants mankind a great ton of convenience and comfort in the world. So fossil fuels came to popularity after the Industrial Revolution. On the left of the slide, you'll see societies and communities in pre-industrial time, that is before heavy reliance on fossil fuels. But after fossil fuels, such as oil and coal, became commonplace, we see the separation occur in our societies. So people who had access to these fossil fuels would cement their position in society through primitive accumulation, and they would use mechanisms like fear and hatred to push destructive messages. Divide and conquer was a type of strategy used to enforce this fear and hatred in society. And from this, we developed this business acumen, this industrialized business world, where we prioritize a form of freedom, which is in fact the protection of our comforts, not us specifically here in the developing world, but largely from the developed world. So freedom is rebranded as defense of natural resources. And through the kind of strategizing and accumulation of resources and the inadequate distribution, we get things like profiteering and exploitation. So our freedoms become limited, whilst profiteering and exploitation become the standard way of life. Next, please, Merylene. This, of course, has led to the climate crisis. And so our current arrangement following the pursuit of fossil fuels has led to what we call global warming, which is where greenhouse gases, which have been produced by humans exploiting fossil fuels, don't allow enough of the incoming energy that's hitting the planet from the sun to go back out. So it's a greenhouse effect. This in turn causes an excess amount of energy in the climate system, and that excess of energy causes disproportionate kind of disasters, natural disasters, to the poor and the marginalized on the planet. So the current arrangement is that we are not valuing natural life nor human life. And there are other repercussions to this, where the environment takes the backseat in pursuit of profits and in pursuit of natural resources, which delivers, again, disproportional negative environment to the poor. Like, they live in squalor, they live surrounded by filth, they live surrounded by pollution, and there's kind of a sick relationship happening between those who have and those who have not. Next, please, Merylene. All right, so this is what they call the famous hockey stick graph, which shows how the climate has changed in terms of carbon dioxide concentration, parts per million, since pre-industrial times. The hockey stick graph shows that following the Industrial Revolution, compounding effect kind of happened, and the CO2 heated the planet, and it itself causes a positive feedback mechanism, where the heat in the atmosphere prevents the CO2 from dissipating, and so we're kind of trapped in a cycle. And this is all caused by the reliance on, over-reliance on fossil fuels and the exploitation, therefore, of such fossil fuels. There's other resources that similarly cause climatic degradation, such as plantations for excessive wood, which might feed into the shipping industry. And then there's water resource, which is becoming scarce because of the climate problem. Coal is a form of fossil fuel, oil is a major fossil fuel, and the pursuit of these natural resources bring misery and suffering to many people on the planet. Next, please, Merylene. So you might ask, what is the mechanism that drives this pursuit of fossil fuel, and why haven't we stamped out those people who are causing this global problems? That is because of our economic system. Our economic system delivers benefits to those who have capital, who have the ability to participate in the economic system. And the story is actually a bit deeper than the superficial one I'm giving here now. If you recall, you are a human being. You're a human being on Earth, and our planet has gone through some major events in terms of human society. Primitive accumulation and maybe the depression of living in Europe caused world wars. So people fought over resources, fought over land, fought over ideologies. And following World War II, during World War II, rapid industrialization became the norm for the planet. But after the war, the places which concentrated their power, because they had that wartime spirit, they needed a way to push their reach to the rest of the world. So they created a system called neoliberalism. Neoliberalism, in a nutshell, it means that it's a push for more liberal market policies to dictate the economics of the world, essentially. So when exploitation went global, that is what is known as neoliberal capitalism. And this slide has some detail, which will be, and the slides can be shared with all participants. But essentially, if you follow the roadmap, what it's trying to say is that global monopolies control how natural resources are allocated, distributed, and concentrated. And in such a fashion, they push other sectors of society into more and more desperate attempts at eking out livelihoods. So we have all sorts of environmental problems, of which the climate crisis is one, caused by human greed. And the name, the apt name for this is neoliberal capitalism. Next, please, Merylene. All right. To identify three of the major capitalist industries which have been fundamental to the climate crisis, these are what I have researched. These are the petrochemical industries, which deal with all things petroleum-based and chemical-based, because as we know, most chemicals are refined from petroleum. Petrol comes through drilling the ocean or fracking of the land, or also shale gas. If it's condensed in concentrated form, it can become oil. And in this fossil fuel, a barrel worth of petrol, of oil, is about 4.5 years of what a human can produce in terms of energy. So it's very energy dense. And in its energy density is its secret, in that it allowed us to catapult our societies forward. But by doing that, we brought also the harms of society much forward. And the benefits were not equally shared, but the threats and the exposures and risks of fossil fuels, those are unequally spread out towards society. So the petrochemical industry, the military industrial complex, and the agro-pharmaceutical complexes are three major industries which rely on fossil fuels and perpetuate a system of exploitation. Next, please, Merylene. So in a sense, two worlds have been created. A world where those who are near natural resources are left to wallow and languish, whilst their resources are exploited by those who have capital, and those who have capital maintain an unsustainable degree of comfort in their world. You might be asking what the soccer ball has to do in this picture, but I kind of think that sports, in many cases, whilst they have a lot of cultural significance tied to them, serve as a great distraction for the world's problems. And even the industries themselves are powered by the fossil fuel consuming, producing, and polluting industries. So on the left, we have the destruction caused by pursuit of natural resources on the planet, which exacerbate the climate crisis, like oil pollution in the Niger Delta at the top, or deforestation in the Amazon in the second picture, and even the pollution of rivers, and there's a dead tiger, which has happened in India. And since it's Ramadan, I want to just show a picture of some Syrian kids who try and eke out a living caused by the war. So the resource curse is what's the term applied to those who live near natural resources. And on the other hand of the spectrum, we have the super rich who kind of distance themselves from worrying about the problems of the world. So these unnatural places like Dubai and indoor ice arenas in a hot desert, these are only possible through unlimited sources of wealth, which sadly come from the oil industry. And as Bulbasaur says in the top right-hand corner, infinite growth fueled by capital accumulation on a planet of finite resources is unsustainable. Okay, thanks, Merylene. Next slide, please. All right, in this final slide, I tried to contextualize what the youth, where our role is, what is our position in this quagmire that we find ourselves. We face something called scarcity. Scarcity is rife across the developing world. We don't live in a post-scarcity society. So if you think about the Nordic countries which have good education and healthcare systems, they had relied on their natural resources. They socialized the benefits of their natural resources, but at the same time, their resources are defended by the winners of the World War II. So they form part of that the good guys. The League of Nations became the United Nations, and the NATO pact, which they protect each other from. But all of that, which sounds great on paper, leaves the developing world vulnerable and exposed and in a state of scarcity. So scarcity results in us, I'm trying to make it contemporary, also with like dysfunctional school systems. So youth pursuing education, or they have an education, but because of scarcity, there's little access to jobs, there's little access to opportunity. And in terms of what they can do with their lives, it's very difficult to accrue capital. So with the property system, then we have no jobs, so we have no way to create capital. So we cannot participate strongly in a system which is capitalism, the world's capitalist system. And then the power relations, where does that put the youth? Without capital, we have no voice in society. We have very limited decision-making power. So because of scarcity, we end up not helping each other, but rather climbing over each other. But fundamentally, I believe that capital and capital accumulation is offset by creating better relationships, stronger, more powerful relationships within our society. So I believe in social cooperation as the opposite of capitalism. And if we can help each other and build up each other, like what we're doing now, this is essentially a stab in the heart of capitalism. So many groups suffer, though they don't know directly what the cause of their suffering is. And I've just listed a few of them on the left-hand side. Women in general have always been divorced from the decision-making processes. Youth, we make up the largest contingent on the continent, the largest demographic, but our voice is, to the side. We have old dinosaurs in power who sleep in parliament and earn giant salaries, and they accrue capital just by existing. Then we have the poor and the marginalized. Always they have been the downtrodden of society, the first to be sacrificed. People of color, they were looked at as capital for a long while, like you can own a person of color. And this leads to hate being normalized in society. Things like Afrophobia, xenophobia, homophobia, and all these other irrational phobias that are thrown against people become the part of the daily life. So indigenous people, those with mental health issues, the disempowered and the disabled, all of these people are downtrodden and done down by capitalism or by the current economic system, which leads to the climate crisis. So that's the climate crisis at the top, and at the bottom, it's sustained by capitalism. As Albert Einstein says, love is the answer, ultimately. And this is my last slide for this short presentation, but it's not my last thing that I would like to say, because whilst that is a depressing departure, I would like to take this opportunity to utilize to say a prayer from my own faith, which is Surah Wadduha, and I'm going to read each verse of the 7 verses and give you the English translation of them for your own meaning. So, Muslims, if you will join me. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wadduha. This means by the morning sunlight. Wal-layli iza saja. And the night when it falls still. Ma waddaka rabbuka wa ma qala. Your Lord, O Prophet, has not abandoned you, nor has he become hateful of you. Walal akhiratu khairul laka min al-ula. And the next life is certainly far better for you than this one. Wala sawfa yu'tika rabbuka fatarda. And surely your Lord will give so much to you that you will be pleased. Alam yajidaka yatiman fa'awa. Did he not find you as an orphan, then sheltered you? Wa wajadaka dalan fahada. Did he not find you unguided, then guided you? Wa wajadaka a'ilan fa'aghna. And did he not find you needy, then satisfy your needs? Fama yatiman wala taqhar. So do not oppress the orphan. Wa amma sa'ilan fala tanhar. Nor repulse the beggar. Wa amma bini'mati rabbika fahaddis. And then proclaim the blessings of your Lord. So essentially what this surah is telling us is that even in these most direst of times where the climate crisis is overwhelming and all around us, it's penetrating all factors, all sectors of society and people's lives even. This surah is something that can give people hope. And yeah, that's where I would like to just tie in with my religion, which is the religion of the earth. If you're a good Muslim, you're supposed to already be climate conscious and environmentally conscious. Sadly, most of the Muslim dominated countries are part and parcel of the climate crisis, but they themselves are the worst, are some that are going to be the worst affected, like endless droughts in the Middle East and hurricanes of sand. These are what is in store for us if we don't, come to task with what we need to do to protect our planet. So thank you, Merylene, and thank you to the Interfaith community for having me. I hope I did you all proud. Till next time.
Thank you, Khalid. That was a great presentation. We appreciate it. And thank you for that beautiful Islam recital at the end as well. And for also sharing with us about how it all ties in Islam with the environment and climate change in the scriptures. So we appreciate that. Thank you. Do stay on and come back. I know you need to go for prayer right now, but do come back and discuss with us, engage with us in our youth dialogue afterwards.
I will do my best. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And hopefully Khulekani will be able to talk to us and he's online. Khulekani, you here?
Yes, I'm back. And I'm going to do a very, very, very brief presentation. But firstly, thank you very much once again, Merylene, and thank you, Brother Khalid, for that presentation. I think I knew that you were going to do that kind of a presentation, and for that reason, I chose to do the presentation where I can present the project of my church, what we have been doing and what we are currently doing, and just to encourage everyone about the importance of faith communities to do the climate justice work in our society. And I hope that you can still, I hope that you can see my screen. So what you are seeing right now is this picture with green things and green ELCSA, and on your right it is the logo of my church. So green ELCSA, ELCSA, Merylene, when she introduced me, said that said it in full name. It's the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Southern Africa. It's based in 4 countries: South Africa, Lesotho, Botswana, and Swaziland. So the projects that we have, it's called Green ELCSA because it is the environmental project. Our motto is taken in the Bible, the book of Mark, chapter 16, verse 15, which says, "Go into all the world and preach the good news to all creation." To us, we understand this text as the commission, or the great commission that Jesus gave to his 12 disciples, and ultimately to the community that followed him, and then to the community, to the world that believes in him as the Son of God. And we have 3 words that are very much important to us in our climate justice work, and that is preach, the gospel, and creation, which means that the gospel, or the good news, is not only intended to human beings or to human species, but to all creation, to the earth itself. And we as the church, we have in our constitution the mission of the church, which reads, "The mission of the church is to glorify and praise the name of the triune God, and it is realized by advocating for justice, peace, and reconciliation for the people of God." And we understand justice, peace, and reconciliation in 3 thematic areas, and that is climate justice, the well-being, and creation which is not for sale. And so we began our work technically we began our work in May 2017 when the Lutheran World Federation had an assembly with 148 churches in the globe in 92 countries. And one of the resolutions that was taken there was based on climate justice, that climate justice is a priority for churches and will be a priority for the churches in the period of 6 years, beginning in 2017 to 2023. And as such, we have participated both as a church and as a communion of churches globally in international events. So you see this bigger picture on your right. We were in Marrakesh in Morocco at COP22, where we led one of the marches calling for climate justice, calling for the world leaders to raise their ambition in implementing the Paris Agreement. And you can see that small picture on your bottom left. We have you basically have the delegation of the Lutheran World Federation to one of the conferences there. I'm sorry if you can see the pop-up messages here. I'm using my phone. And then from global, focusing on a global mission for climate justice, we went back to focusing on our continent, our region, Africa. And there you can see my fellow Lutherans there. We were doing a training in Johannesburg. From this training, we were able to implement about 12 projects across Africa, including obviously here in South Africa, in Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Senegal, Mauritania, and other countries from this training. And then it was at that point when we started to take this project as a pilot project in South Africa. So we began at our congregation in Tuzuma, where I live, obviously, and you can see on your right there that picture. We used to visit the school. So let me just explain how do we do our work in ELCSA for Green ELCSA. We have three elements, and I mean components. I think that's the way. We have three components. The first one is climate change education. And under climate change education, we do workshops, we do awareness raisings, and we do seminars. And that picture on your right is one of the workshops that we used to do in school. So we don't do them only for the members of the church, but we also do them in the community, including visiting schools. And this was a primary school where we had a conversation with grade 7 learners about what is climate change, the basic conversation about it. And then we have another component, which is environmental care. And under environmental care, we do recycling. And you see that picture at your bottom left, where we donate the bins to the churches. So we donated these 4 bins to 2 churches, a church in Tuzuma and a church in KwaMashu, and where we said that the church should actually take the practical steps in protecting our environment, and they must recycle. So this was in I think this was in 2018. So it's a project that is ongoing. And we have the last component, which is climate justice advocacy. What we do is obviously to engage the policies on climate change, including some legislations in KZN and the national policies like the adaptation charter, the white paper. And then fast forward everything, we have so we started as a pilot project in Tuzuma Township in 2017, and in 2018 the project grew to a parish level, which covered Tuzuma, KwaMashu, Inanda, and in 2019 we covered the entire Durban, obviously the communities the communities that we could reach at that point. And in 2020, as you can see, these are my colleagues. In 2020, I worked with these colleagues in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, a church diocese which is called the Southeastern Diocese. And it is through these people that the project has been active in KwaZulu-Natal, in our churches across the
Khulekani, we can't hear you. Okay, we lost connection with him. Sorry. Okay, so hopefully we can get him back. I think it's just not working out with the internet connection with him. But also it's raining, and so we all are experiencing a bit of internet problems. So, okay, while we, hopefully he can come back and continue his presentation, we will move over to our next speaker, and then maybe, hopefully we can get him back. So let me introduce our next speaker, which is Vedhan Singh. He's a social spiritual activist for human rights who focuses on peace and security in the continent through an interfaith dialogue lens. He represents the Southern African region at the African Union and the United Nations under such forums as the Interfaith Dialogue on Violent Extremism and Youth for Peace. Presently, he serves as the president of the South African Hindu Youth Movement, special advisor to various interfaith and religious leaders, a member of Religions for Peace Interfaith Youth Climate Forum, and he is trained by the African Union as Preventing Violent Extremism Trainer of Trainers. Vedhan is an affiliate of the Sanatana Dharma Way of Life. He also represents the Global Network of Religions for Children. So welcome, Vedhan.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Matre Namaha, Harihi Om. I believe that when so much is said about you, then much more is expected. And sometimes we see these connection problems as Mother Earth's way of saying to us, we're moving too fast and we have to go back to basics. So I offer many greetings many universal greetings of light and love to all. All protocol is observed. My talk is quite info-packed into this compact 10 minutes. I'm going to dive straight into it. The way that I approached it is to look at the theme, which said that it's a youth interfaith forum and the climate is changing. Why aren't we changing and what can we do? So is the climate really changing? We're in the second quarter of the year and we are a little more than, we are a little shy of the end of the fourth month of the year. Time passes by really quick. And there is something that is changing just as quickly, and that is our planet. Present here, there are environmentalists, maybe there are skeptics. So is the climate really changing, I ask you? Let's look at the facts. The average temperature has risen over 1.2 degrees Celsius since the 19th century, and 2020 was the hottest year on record, according to the World Meteorological Organization, which called it the second hottest year on record. Greenland lost 152 gigatons of ice between September 2019 and August 2020. And to just give you a picture of what 152 gigatons would be, 1 gigaton is able to fill 400,000 Olympic swimming pools. So water 152 times that amount has been added to our oceans. As the ocean surface rose, so did the temperature. In 2020, 80% of the ocean areas experienced at least one marine heat wave. Atlantic hurricanes were experienced and followed between the period June and November 30th. Africa and Asia experienced heavy rainfall and flooding in a very vicious cycle. And then it snowed in Spain, which was really beautiful, but it was also really scary. And the reason for that is because it's not supposed to snow in Madrid in Spain, but it did. So the climate is changing. And when our Earth heats up, droughts are prolonged, the ice melts more rapidly, more water evaporates into the atmosphere, the Earth receives more rain than usual, there's floods and extreme weather conditions, and we see all of this happening. But many of us think that climate change is limited only to people who live near the oceans or polar bears in the Arctic region. But we are wrong, because climate change makes us late for work. Climate change affects the food we eat and our healthcare. Climate change is even affecting coffee production, with 60% of the known coffee species on the edge of extinction. Climate change is affecting an essential protein for all the world, namely fish. Salmon fish die when water in the ocean rise above a certain threshold. Rising temperatures result in dehydration, hypothermia, heat strokes, and in extreme conditions, it even causes death. Rising temperatures spark wildfires, kill people, plants, the animals, and cause air pollution, which affect human beings in the sense of asthma and bronchitis. Climate change is affecting your purse and your wallet directly, because hotter temperatures and droughts are making food more scarce and more more expensive. And we are seeing this in the price of vegetables and goods, grocery goods. Climate change is real, and climate change affects all of us. Now that I've established the facts that indeed the climate is changing, why aren't we changing? And I've examined this through a lens of a faith-based perspective, namely that of a Hindu standpoint. I believe that the underlying reasons and the root cause and issues in terms of why we change need to be understood from our external world, which is actually a reflection of our internal world. And a change has to start from within. If we look at climate change, it's a system of a number of things that have been happening in the world for many hundreds of years. And the question begs is, why is the climate changing, but why aren't our habits and behaviors changing? And the answer is quite simple. It is greed, overconsumption, overpopulation, and specifically from a Hindu perspective, it boils down to our connection with the world and a spiritual disconnection that we may have on both an individual and collective basis. To break it down, our connection with the world is about the current way that we lead our lives and the current way the world expects us to live our lives. For example, economies in the world are based on a single premise of financial growth as the mark of success in any economy. But GDP growth is a total failure if it doesn't take the environment into account. A country can have really exponential growth rates when it comes to their GDP, but the same country could be polluting all of its rivers. It could be polluting its air quality, it could be cutting down all its trees, and it could be causing massive environmental destruction and degradation, but still show a high GDP to the world. That country is considered successful, but is it really? Simply put, the economy and economic markers that exist do not take into account the environment, and they do not take into account how the climate is changing. There is no regard for environmental degradation and destruction. And then the stark irony is that we depend solely on nature for natural resources and raw materials in order for the very same economy to survive and thrive. I believe that from a Hindu perspective, it boils down to the responsibility and respect for the earth, which is Mother Earth, which is regarded as a goddess in the Hindu religion. And it is through her will and her permission that she permits our existence, our functionality, and holds us on this earth, who is an all-providing Mother Earth. So I believe if we look at that perspective and we see her as Mother Nature, then the world will use her provisions with great respect and reverence, taking care not to deplete, but to utilize for economic gains with the mindset of replenishing what was used as far as possible, and possessing great care respect, and diligence in using her resources. I'm going to be very disciplined in terms of keeping with time. My presentation was much longer, but I'm going to go on to the final aspect of it because I note that I've got like 2 minutes left and I want to be very respectful about it. So the third prong is the climate is changing and what can we do? The thematic approach of what can we do? Again, I will look at this from a Hindu lens. Nature is very much at the heart of Hindu practice. One simply look at the representation of divinity in Hinduism, and one will find that it is very much in tune with nature and with the natural world. The very existence of divinity throughout all religions are places like rivers, forests, and no difference. Hinduism is the same. Its origins can be traced back to rivers, the living aspect of nature, and the environment that is well recognized and revered, such as healing plants, tender, intelligent, mother-like animals, water, and so on. It advocates a very beautiful way of living, of being in sync with nature and the environment by recognizing the inherent divinity of all natural life around our climate. And then Hinduism goes on not just to recognize this, but the divinity present in human beings and in plants, trees, the oceans, the skies, either fire, air, the sands, and the wildlife around us. And truthfully, this view is quite opposite to the Western view, because the Western view is an advanced and economic view. I believe that it is about going back to basics. And as young people, we need to show up in order to change the climate. Like the previous speaker had spoken about, that we are the largest demographic in every developing continent of the world. We need to show up and reinforce some of the work that we do, which includes being environmental activists, leading the narrative about climate change and environmental protection, having our voices as young people amped in the mainstream society, not just in climate circles, in order for the mainstream society to learn about climate change and for other young people to come in and fill the gaps that may exist from a policy point of view, academic point of view, and grassroots level when it comes to environmentalism. I want to reach the end of my presentation where I want to say, basically, it is all about each and every one of us taking the initiative to ensure that we make the world around us green and sustainable, because when we decide to take care of the world around us, the climate will change for the better. The world will take care of and sustain itself, and then nature will heal us rather than harm us, because that is her inherent nature, to heal and not to harm. I thank you.
Wow, thank you, Vedhan. That was an amazing presentation, and you covered a lot of important aspects for us to reflect on, but also like questions we need to ask about where we're going and where we currently are, and to reflect on. But also, it's so nicely the way you tied it in with the Sanatana Dharma way of life as well. So thank you so much for that. So before I move on to our last speaker, I just want to thank you guys for engaging with us on the chat. There's some amazing comments coming through. And thank you to Kritania as well, because she has been commenting on the presentations, and thank you for your support. And just to let everyone know that if you want to meet the other members in the call, you can just look in the chat and communicate with them and get to know them as well. So we come now to our last speaker, and our last speaker for today is Delwyn. Let me just check if Delwyn is on the call. Let me just introduce Delwyn. He is from GreenPeace Africa. He completed his Bachelor of Arts in Environmental Management and is a full-time volunteer and activist for GreenPeace Africa. He advocates for environmental and social justice and is an ecologist at heart. He is involved with several projects supporting local communities in terms of building self-sufficiency and resilience. And one of these community projects is the Green Camp Seed Bank, which was initiated as a result of a community seed bank workshop, which he facilitated. His current independent urban renewal project is in Mbilo. So welcome, Delwyn. Thank you for being with us, and you can share.
Thanks so much for the introduction, Merylene. And it was a really pleasure to be part of this platform with my colleagues that we marched together. We have so many years of strong activism. So I think my presentation is sort of going to interconnect all the other presentations that were presented thus far. I think from our perspective, it's to link the spirituality to Mother Earth, and I see that the South African government has actually embraced the concept of International Mother Earth Day. And so Mother Earth Day is connected with a lot of cultures, countries associates with Mother Earth. If, for example, if you think about South America, they talk about Pachamama, right? So that's, you think of a female life-bearing, supporting, nurturing, and it just ties in with that spirituality that I think is lacking when we think about our planet. And also that it's a concept that relates or shall say reflects our independence on Mother Earth for our livelihood or existence as human beings, but also other creatures as well. We all inhabit this planet Earth, and I know a lot of people, some may dispute or argue about climate change and the fact that it's probably one of the greatest challenges that we face as humanity. And a lot of speakers actually gave examples of climate change. And to bring it in a local perspective, you think about Durban, and you think about the rain bombs that we experienced and the increased frequency of that. And so we're actually having climate refugees. Their homes are getting flooded. They seek new spaces to live. And just up the road from me is Chatsworth. And a few years back, or about recently, the rain bomb was so severe that a lot of communities were actually isolated. They're completely closed off. They had no access to water, no electricity. So this is real apocalyptic scenarios that we face with. And that's why it needs about urgencies of addressing climate change. But yeah, you still get people that argue climate change. But one thing that no one can dispute is that we are all interconnected, and we all are dependent on Mother Earth. No one can dispute that. And I think, and for me, you know, it's what is lacking is we no more living in harmony with Mother Earth. There's this disconnect, right? Because Mother Earth is nurturing, giving. So let me give probably let me give an example, right? So if you think about our current food system, we use a lot of pesticides and herbicides, and this like disrupts our local ecosystems. For example, the use of pesticides, and certainly for industrial agriculture. You have loss of insects, and pesticides get soaked in the soil, ends in the waterways. So if you go into a supermarket, you buy maybe an apple, and it looks nice and sexy, but the problem is it's covered with pesticides, and so you're having a whole disruption of the ecosystem. You're having bees dying. An example of herbicide is there's a term called green desert. So what is a green desert? So it basically is you have one type of vegetation, and so you have a whole loss of biodiversity because that herbicide kills everything else but that particular crop. And that's all in the name of profits. So you're having this whole disruption of and collapse of ecosystem. And for me, well, that's my passion. It's food, because I think life should actually revolve around food. And nowadays, food is just something that you just go to a supermarket, you don't really think about it. So, and a lot of our presenters talk about going back to basics. There's nothing more basic than going outside and getting your hands dirty and putting a seed in the soil and eating from that. And you think about food, but you think about everything else that's connected with the food system. So once you have a holistic food system around that, it connects with communities, and you can actually create a whole livelihood that can actually wing yourself from the corrupt capitalist system that's based on exploitation and destruction of our natural ecosystem. And so I think maybe, yeah, so I mean, Earth Day I think it started in 1970, if I'm not mistaken. So it's about 50 years. And GreenPeace at the moment actually started a year after that. So this year, GreenPeace will be 50 years in existence. And interesting fact about GreenPeace, just to connect it back to spirituality. So the founding fathers of GreenPeace were actually Quakers. And Quakers is a sect from Christians. So they used to meet at the basement of their church. And they used to discuss about stopping the nuclear testing of Amchuku. So that's an Arctic. But a lot of the principles that GreenPeace are based on the Quaker principles. I think it's principles that connects with all other spiritualities and faith-based organization. For example, inequality, peace, and there's one particular interesting principle in Quaker that's probably one of the grounding principle of GreenPeace, and that is bearing witness. So it's basically you recognizing environmental crime, you talking about it, you sharing your story about it, and you're building solidarity around that. So GreenPeace is well known for doing crazy stunts, and that's the method of bearing witness to bring it into the public domain, because otherwise the public might not be aware that the issue is. I think it takes a certain amount of bravery to actually do it, because it's easier to walk past something and or think that someone else is going to bring it up. So the bravery of identifying the issue and taking it up and talking about it and bring it to a forefront. It takes a lot of bravery, strength, and courage to do that. I think in society, that we are missing a lot of bravery and strength. And then you think about apartheid. We actually got it quite easy because most of us are privileged enough that we don't face severe prosecution in terms of getting arrested or even killed, depending where you are in South Africa, because there are activists that actually their lives are threatened for bringing these issues in the forefront. Because there's a lot of strong investments in projects, and yeah, so it's a lot of bravery in doing that. Yeah, sorry about my presentation. I'm a bit manic, and so I can be all over the place. So maybe now it'll be, I don't know if it's Khulekani still want to complete his presentation, and if he's still back on the line, or Merylene. And then maybe you can open up to further discussion.
Thank you, Delwyn. That was very insightful with what you shared with us. But especially, you actually showed us that, you know, we need to walk our talk. And so basically what you're showing us is what you're doing in the communities on ground level. And I think the work your guys are doing is amazing. And especially with what you started your project in Mbilo with the seed project, I think that's great. And it's great because, you know, we live in urban areas. We've like lost touch with nature, and we forgot that, you know, by having a garden and just growing natural, organic, wholesome, good vegetables, which like has a major benefits on our health without pesticides, without all those chemicals. But at the same time, it's showing us that, you know, we have to be more self-reliant, but also to live life differently in a different lifestyle. We're not to be dependent on just the mass productions of everything, because if you look at most of the earth problem today, it's about overconsumption, and overconsumption leads back to moral ethics and greed and how we live our life and the lifestyles that we lead. So thank you for sharing with us, and especially sharing what you do and your project with us, but also reflecting and talking about the interconnectivity of everything, which we often forget, that we all are interconnected. What affects you affects me, and what affects me affects you. So we all on this planet, I mean, if we look at the pandemic itself, just by one country, it happened, it affected the whole world, and it affected so many things, and it affected so many of our lives and brought up so much more challenges and difficulties. But at the same time, it's made us aware of how we need to live in this interconnectedness with nature. You know, we need to live in harmony and in balance with nature. So thank you for sharing that with us. And Khulekani, I can't see him back on the call, but I think he's still trying. He basically passed his apologies. He's having internet connections, but he also has done great work, Khulekani, and he's managed to share some of his presentation showing us what they do in the church and how the church is also actively involved in climate matters. So this brings us to the end of our first session. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you found it fruitful, enlightening, something to reflect on, but also it's an introduction for us to engage further and to interact further so that we can talk to each other and share ideas with each other, but also communicate with each other and see what we can do as youth by coming together in this meeting tonight. So I would like to now hand over the second session to Mark Shaldon Naicker. He's a colleague that I've been working with for years in the Interfaith Youth Climate Movement, but also in the Interfaith Movement itself. And he's very passionate. He's very passionate about climate matters, youth matters, and he's a very dear and supportive friend. And he represents Religions for Peace South Africa and the Global Network of Religions for Children. So over to you, Mark. You can conduct the next session. We will have everybody unmuted. You're allowed to engage. You're allowed to put your cameras on. Feel free to share with us and be a part of this conversation. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, Merylene. I think I have the easy part of the evening. Okay. I just want to say before I begin, there was a recent survey by European youth where they asked the question was, what are you most afraid of? And one of the things that they stated that one of the things they did was in the answer, they were more afraid of climate change than they were of COVID. So is that something that we should be thinking about? What do we think as African youth? What do African youth think? What is more important? The other thing that I just want to say before we begin our session, our interactive session, is Africa and South Asia are going to be the places where climate change is going to take a drastic effect. So that's the onslaught of climate change. So it's something that's why one of the reasons why we thought we'd have this kind of engagement with young people is how do we act? What do we do to take the message forward as climate change activists? And how do we save humanity, especially more or less in terms of Africa? What are the solutions? So I think in saying that, I think as Merylene said, we wanna allow young people to share what they think, to kind of voice their own opinion, and to engage with the speakers. I'm sure you heard what the speakers were speaking about, and maybe if you want to also maybe ask direct questions to the speakers in terms of their presentation, and if you need more clarity. Also, what is the most drastic issue affecting climate change? So if you just raise your hand, and we can get to you and you can ask your question.
Okay, fundamentally, what must change is the curriculum in the education system of the country. And that must start from nursery school, or now what do they have, pre-nursery, or from tiny tots level. Merylene will know we talk about Bal Vikas and what have you in our Sanatan Dharma way of life. But basically, right from that level to workplace education and training. So it's going to cross the entire spectrum of a person's life. And what must change is climate education and environmental education being stitched into the education system of the country, into the curriculum, into our training. Because quite frankly, in all humility, I'm a postgraduate student writing a dissertation. Never one day in any school, lecture, meeting, textbook, theory, was I ever taught or told about what is happening to the climate besides in life sciences or geography. It was never an issue for any lecturer, any academic staff, and they would come in there with unnecessary printed papers and books instead of back then using the technology that was available, like the electronic boards and what have you. I mean, we're on the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution now, but the technology was always there, of projectors and what have you. But really, from that academic point of view in our society and from the education point of view, there is simply no focus whatsoever about the climate and about the environment. And it can only change when that system of education and curriculum changes.
But Vedhan, can we not just take it back to our faith? What does our faith community teach us? Is there any education in our faith community, in Christianity, Hinduism? When you go to the temple, is your priest, is he speaking about climate change? When I go to church, is my religious person speaking about climate change? Because we obviously know religion is organized religion, has many members around the world. You know, we should be shifting things, but is the message getting across? That's the question. Yes, education is important, right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you totally. Education is important, but you think about it on a Sunday, on a Saturday, on a Friday, people are going to places of worship. But what is the message? Is there any message of climate change in terms of in terms of our Creator? You know, what is our responsibility as people of faith?
As an interfaith,
That's open to everyone else, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that being an interfaith practitioner from my perspective, the truth is that our churches, temples, and mosques are getting more emptier by the day. And the reason I proposed a change in the education system of the country as a whole is so that we can reach the masses and the mainstream society without focusing on only a faith-based strata. But like I said, let's open it and see what the other speakers do have to say about it.
Yeah. So any of our other young people would like to comment? What are some of the solutions that you think that we'll be able to use to try and eradicate the problems that we are facing?
Maybe I could add from my perspective, being a Christian. So my grandmother introduced me to Christianity, and over the years, I got frustrated with the teachings, narrow-mindedness of, and the lack of connecting to the whole holistic narrative, and especially with regards to environmental issues, because the teachings were focused on the individual and individual salvation. But not the connection with Mother Earth and as a person connected with the spirituality with Mother Earth. But let me add this. What I got from church was the passion of volunteering and servitude. So I used to assist my grandmother with a lot of the church outreach programs. And one example was she used to go to the supermarkets and she used to collect all the discarded vegetables. So we used to collect that and we used to make soup from that and used to feed the homelessness. So that was my first experience of bearing witness and the issue of food waste. I was completely shocked that the amount of food, reasonably good quality food that got wasted. And so I've actually felt like a superhero saving all this vegetable. And I have to tell you this, that vegetable biryani that my grandmother used to make from it was the best vegetable biryani I ever had. What I got from the church was servitude to community, and it's something that feeds your spirit, and it goes beyond financial gain. I think as a society, that's a problem, is we chasing after that financial gain, but it's not feeding us the spirituality. And so we always feed we buy things to fill that void in us. And when we buy those stuff, it's using more resources. So I think if we all become volunteers, for the world will be a much better place. So yeah, that was my experience being brought up with church.
Is there anyone else who would like to say something? I think we were looking at the comments. What Zenith was saying was more or less engaging with youth in terms of using youth groups, which I think is a brilliant idea. How do we engage young people, especially youth groups, are very, in terms of them being organized, and to go where young people are at. Those are great opportunities, as Vedhan was saying about the education system, and which is good. And youth groups are another entry opportunity to go out to where young people are at. Also, Zenith is saying basically we need to look at grassroots activity. So I think we almost, now how are we doing for time?
We are still doing okay for time if anybody wants to engage a bit more.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Zenit had a great a point about touching on Vedhan's statement about schools. And we tried to start a small movements like that with the IYCF by having programs with the youth peace forums, Religions for Peace, and to educate youth about climate change. So I think that's a great comment that she has made. But also, I just want to touch a little bit on what Delwyn said and about the food waste. And recently, I was talking to my my cousin, who works in the municipal department where they recycle and the landfills and stuff. And he was telling me that there's so much food that comes in from supermarkets, and they are basically like tons of food, good food that is thrown away because it has been 1 day over the expiry date, and because the fridge went off for 5 minutes, and food just becomes dumped on the landfill, and all of the workers and all of the poor people end up coming there and they just eating, they're grabbing the food, taking it home because it's still good food. Even though it's dumped there, you can still get it and take it and cook it and eat it. And so it's very alarming, and it's very scary when we think about what happens on our landfills. Like, we just know, okay, we put our waste in the bin bag and it goes straight to the bin truck, but what happens from it there and onwards? And I think that a way forward would be if we could utilize our waste and recycle our waste in a more productive way, we could have more waste in this world, but also have contributing to a solution to our problems of waste, because we'll be using it in a resourceful way. But also, like, it's a pity, there's a lot of hungry and starving people out there, and yet so much food gets dumped on the landfills. So I just wanted to share a bit of that.
Yeah. I think, Vedhan, you want to say something? You had your hands raised.
Yeah, perfect. So it would be absolutely lovely if, I just wanted to check, is this the same Zinat from Ansari Youth Club? If she can just indicate on the chat if she's comfortable. Yeah. Is it? Is it Mark? Oh, okay, lovely. So she's lovely. Pleasure to see you here. I wanted to come in where moderator spoke about the food wastage, and one of the ideal organizations, especially one of the case studies that we use in marketing, is the supermarket Woolworths, and they have very excellent initiatives in place to green their stores, their operations, and the way they do things. For instance, they are the supermarket that started to cover the fridges and freezers and to ensure that they're able to keep it as cool as possible. There's various things that they do, and I'm not here to fly the Woolworths flag. However, what they do have is an excellent initiative which takes sell-by date expired merchandise, which, like you said, is perfectly good and well in order to consume. It's just a sell-by date for the shelf, to schools, to NPO organizations, and to hospices. So it's quite interesting because we know that only a certain demographic or LSM, living standard measure of the population, can shop in Woolworths because it's considered a bit more on the expensive side of life. So in that sense, our mainstream supermarkets, be it your ShopRite, your Checkers, your Spars, and your Pick and Pays, even your checkouts, your Take and Pay, etc., should green their operations. And really, if they're engaging in such activities like dumping, I mean, why dump? There are schools within your own catchment, within your own neighborhood, where the kids are hungry, where the kids don't have lunch, where they don't fall within the quintile ranking to have a soup kitchen or any support from the KZN or municipal governments to have any food structure or food security in place. So why not take it to these communities? And what happens is, a lot of the time, that there's the fear factor, in the sense of people, for whatever cultural or socioeconomic reasons there may be, that people are afraid to say, I'm hungry, I don't have lunch, or I don't have food to eat, because you are embarrassed, because that's a society we live in. The society judges you, even on your appearance and what have you, but that's a topic for another day. So these organizations, these supermarkets, should be able to have programs in place, green programs, where they can distribute these foods, I believe, in the schools and in the neighboring NPO organizations around them. It's all a matter of innovation and how much you really want to make a difference, from your heart.
Oh, just a quick question. Sorry, Khulekani, I'll get back to you now. It's just you need to maybe just also know, what does the law say about in terms of expired goods, almost expired goods? Because I think I was hearing a while back, they were saying something about the law, it does prohibit you from, in terms of stuff being expired, that it has to be thrown out and not being given away. So I stand corrected. But maybe we need to maybe look at that in terms of what does the law say. And it goes back to the connectedness between the state and the laws that are governed and the realities. And we also know, I think sometimes on bin days, you do see people coming and opening the bin and digging into the bin and taking out stuff. And we obviously know the food in there is contaminated. So maybe we need to, maybe if we have an expert in terms of the law, maybe we need to look at that, right? So Khulekani, yeah, you go for it.
Thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. Thanks for your insights so far. I've been jumping off and on, but it's really nice to hear your thoughts. I was actually going to raise a similar point to you, Mark, with the law. And I think we are talking about food waste. I'm trying to just catch up. But sure, I have so much to say on this, but I'm going to keep it brief. With the law, I know health professionals that do work in law enforcement around, the best before dates and then the use by dates and then actual legislation of business. And there's definitely, I think, a legal gap in the sense that needs to be enforced. But then there are NPOs and NGOs like SA Harvest and others going in and trying to almost get a mandate and like almost a special permission to utilize food that doesn't make the specific beauty standards, because that's what they are. The 30% that doesn't make it to the stores is because they don't meet the specific requirements. They're perfectly good to eat, taste the same, but it's just the beauty measure, that's what I call it. And there are those pockets of people trying to challenge it, and obviously poses a difficulty for the law enforcers who might be really good-hearted, but at the core of it, their job is to enforce the law, regardless of whether they agree with it or not. And I think a lot of us have come into these situations where personal views and organizational views might differ, especially if you're trying to promote a certain ethic or moral. So yeah, that being said, I think there is some work being done in retailers, specifically around sustainable seafood procurement. I know about that. And then I know the South African Plastics Pact is now challenging corporates, manufacturers, and brand owners to sign on. But again, these are time-bound commitments. We need action yesterday. And these things are calling for best practice by like 2025, 2027. So it's tough. It's really tough to isolate, where the levers and barriers are, because there's so many cogs in the wheel. But the problems are very well known. So I guess it's just to try and promote the solutions and bridge those gaps where we can as civil society. Thanks.
Oh, thanks, Khulekani. Thank you so much for your insightful information. That helps a lot. It's something for us to think about. Vedhan, I think you were saying something there.
I have a question that I like to ask everybody and the youth. Sure. We're currently living in different times, right? It's a post-COVID world, and there are new challenges for youth. Living in a world of unemployment, financial job and health securities, grieving of losing loved ones, domestic challenges, disrupted education because it's been a disturbed school year. So we've got so much on our plate, and we have so much as a youth, we've got so much going on. How do we as a youth stay motivated and stay inspired to think about climate change and worry about Mother Earth while we got all this other stuff happening in our life? It's just a question that's been playing on my mind, because I find it hard to drive the climate movement, because to get motivation and momentum and mobilize youth, because there's so much other challenges and difficulties that's weighing on our lives. So how do we find a balance, or how can we draw inspiration? So I leave it open to all the speakers. Thank you.
That's a great question, Merylene. I also don't know how young people manage. There's just too many challenges every single day. And then we start adding on climate change. So I think young people, yeah, they have a lot to think about.
I have just one immediate view on that, Merylene, and it's tough. Like, immediately I thought like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and like in South Africa, it's hard to kind of promote like a global North perspective when we have very different challenges, and there aren't very many contextual studies of South Africa and climate change. We're taking a lot of insight and counsel from other countries when our situation is very different. We can't carbon copy, we've got to like evolve and adapt with our people and our climate and our times. And that being said, we all know that narrative of not being able to worry about environmental justice and climate change when you're worried about where your next plate of food's going to come from. And I think we've all heard that a million times. But then I'm going to switch over to the complete so-called elitist view of when you work with the laws of nature, I think the nature works with you. So now I'm thinking like our grandparents' kind of time, where the little that they had went a long way. So I think there's definitely something rich in that, in going back to our roots and to not get stuck into a victim mentality, entitlement, and believing that we need to be in a certain position or have certain material wealth in order to make a difference. I think the moment people start feeling empowered, then it kind of catapults into more meaningful action. And all those small actions can build up to make a big one. I truly believe in that. Well, maybe that's because I work in consumer change and behavior change, but I think that the law of nature, and also in Sanatana Dharma, Vedhan can back me up, is that when you work for nature, or when you work with good intention, then the universe caters to your need. And it's hard to understand unless you experience it. But I think there's definitely some way of taking responsibility rather than being given responsibility, and really seeing the magic of that unfold. It's a little bit philosophical, but I think that it's a trial and error kind of experiment.
I think for me, like working with nature, you move into a space of abundance. So for example, if you're working with the seed, one seed can give you many seeds, and that abundance spreads. Whereas if you're working from a financial point of view, you have people that create the illusion of scarcity. So they sort of manage the resources with that. So so that's a beauty of working with the seed. As long as you take care of the environment, she'll keep on giving back, and it's endless. The possibilities are endless. There's no end to what you can do, and it encourages your imagination, and it's fun. And maybe that's an answer to Mary, is to keep, I think there's a saying, sustainability is fun. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Thanks, Carl. I think I just want to say, we need to also think of what is the end game for us, because how long has this movement of environmentalists been going on for? 80 years, 100 years? How long does it go more? What is the end game? Because I know for myself as an adult, is I obviously want to see an end to something. Like if we look at poverty, can poverty go on for the next 1,000 years? You know, the best thing for an activist is to say, well, you know what, we reached our goal. But what is the end game? And especially for young people, I think it's an important question. What is the end game? Where do you see the world in the next 10 years? Because you've got to think about it. At this very moment, you know, people in Indonesia, their parliament is moving because you look at Indonesia itself, it's going underwater. The other day I seen a picture of children going to school, kids going to school, where their legs are up. They're sitting on the desk because their school is flooded. You know, these are the realities. You know, maybe one day we will be having this conversation under the ocean in a submarine. You know, I think these are some of the things that young people need to reflect on. And I think there's an interconnectedness between, you look at the politics, civil society, are they connecting with each other? You know, are they working, are they gelling, or are politicians deciding this is what is needed? Are those conversations happening? GreenPeace, are you speaking to government? What's happening? The other thing I was also speaking was that, you know, look at all the environmentalist groups in Durban. Del, how many environmentalist groups do you know in Durban?
There's a lot, but there's a few of us. So you see a lot of people wearing many hats.
Yeah, but have they all come, like, obviously we know this is COVID, but pre-COVID, have they ever come into a room and sat together? You know, especially youth organizations. We have people doing beach cleanups. We know you have university students working on projects. But have they spoken to each other? Do they know each other? It's our environmentalists, just like all the other organizations, do they just work in silos? Like we were looking at the other day, we were looking at information about the government was looking at wild animals being butchered for meat. I think I've shared it quite a while ago in one of our groups. But was there input on that? You know, you look at the Durban South Basin. What is some of the information that's coming out? Are we connected to each other? Like I know they also have a youth organization. I'm sure you must be connected with them. But have they spoken to other environmental youth organizations?
Yeah, I think it's overall. I think people get comfortable in their own space, and they tend to work in silos. So there needs to be a certain effort to break down those silos, and it's like any relationship. There's always give and take, and one has to keep on working on it.
Sorry, Merylene. Do you know how much time we have left? Because I'm looking at the time now. I think it's 8 o'clock already.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock. So you can decide how you want to, if you want to end the conversation. We always will have more Zoom interfaith interactions, and we can really get more feedback from everybody, and we can spice the conversations up a bit more and talk to each other a bit more and partner up as different organizations as well.
So I think I just want to say thanks to everyone else, and especially to Merylene. Thank you for all the technology, and to all our speakers, to Delwyn, to Vedhan, to all the other speakers. You did a great job, and I think that was the idea for us to engage with young people and create a platform. I like also what one of the other comments spoke about, was giving young people a platform. Well, I think it was Zina, yeah, and she said, you know, we need to give young people a platform. And I think this is the platform going forward. And I'd like to say thank you to all those who participated, those from different parts of the continent, for local young people. And if you have any questions, any comments, please don't hesitate to get hold of us or to get hold of Merylene as part of you can send your comments in the group. And yeah, so I think Merylene, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you to all our speakers, Delwyn, Vedhan, Khulekani, who didn't get back on the call, unfortunately. Khalid, he went off to pray. So, and thank you to all those who engaged with us in the chat. It was wonderful. And thank you to Katanya as well for expressing her views as well. So we appreciate it. We know she had so many Zoom calls for Earth Days, but she still made it to be here. And we are thankful for that. Vedhan, you have your hand raised. Do you just want to say something before we close off?
Just sorry to break protocol. I think the real appreciation must go to you and Mark and the entire team that supports you, Religions for Peace, Interfaith Youth Climate Forum, and GNRC. Really, it's an honor and pleasure to have been here. Yes, the call was small, but I believe in quality over quantity, and you could see that it was very engaging. And thank you so much to all the participants. And it was truly a great honor and pleasure to be here this evening.
Okay, thank you, Vedhan. Appreciate it. So I guess this is it. We're calling it for Earth Day. Our meeting comes to an end. We'll have more speakers, people from other organizations and faiths to air their voices, other youths, because the many youth voices we hear, the more we can engage and connect and come together and see how we can work together. And so that's why it's great that we can use this online platform to do that. So thank you so much, and have a beautiful Earth Day, whatever left of it, and have a beautiful week as well till we meet again.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.